Workshop 1, L'Arancia. In preparing mainstream teachers to modify instruction for English language learners at various levels, we have stressed the usefulness of the natural approach as a structure for addressing students' diverse learning needs. Although we teach students a variety of methods, approaches, and techniques such as the SIOP, SDAIE, and CALA models, we have found that the simple format of the natural approach lends itself perfectly to the mainstream environment. Within the framework of the natural approach, we have placed numerous teaching techniques that promote comprehension of content and language development. So we have expanded the natural approach to encompass our teaching context. Pre-service teachers are able to grasp the characteristics of students and teaching strategies at each level and are able to make planned and spontaneous modifications to their teaching, as well as to modify the input students receive and the interaction they participate in. For a language arts teacher with little or no experience learning a second language, the natural approach can be somewhat confusing. First of all, teachers who have never been immersed in a second language environment often lack empathy regarding the difficulty of participating in a lesson taught in an unfamiliar tongue. They might expect ESOL students to begin speaking from day one and to carry out tasks that are well beyond their level of proficiency. No amount of telling can match the effects of experiencing a language immersion lesson. So I developed a Guan series lesson that incorporates total physical response, contextualized instruction, and other best practices for students at the pre-production level in my second language, Italian. I have focused on the pre-production stage in this workshop since this tends to be the most difficult for non-ESOL or foreign language teachers to grasp. In my workshops, after this lesson, I explain each stage of the natural approach and build from there. This CD includes a description of the natural approach and suggestions for teaching in your workshop in classes. I highly recommend the video, The Natural Approach, which is listed in the CD resources as a follow-up to this lesson since it demonstrates the approach with English language learners at various levels. Over time, as I have helped faculty incorporate an ESOL focus to their classes, I have become aware of a concern about which I would like to alert you. Faculty will notice that the natural approach matrix includes teaching techniques and learning strategies that are also used with native speakers of English. For example, role-playing, the language experience approach, and process writing are general techniques that are successful with ESOL students at particular levels of proficiency, but they are not employed in the same way they are with native speakers. This point bears repeating almost constantly, as people will gravitate to the familiar and will assume that what has worked with one group of students will work with others. I emphasize that modified input and modified interaction are the keys to comprehensible instruction and second language development, and that the methods, strategies, and techniques are secondary. This means that being attuned to the communication that occurs both ways is paramount. For our purposes, modifying input includes providing visuals, gestures, and so forth, and modifying interaction involves frequent comprehension checks, negotiation of meaning, etc. These two crucial elements, and because this is a pre-production lesson, especially modified input, are modeled emphatically in the videotaped activity, and they are valid for any stage throughout the progression from pre-production to intermediate fluency. Teachers will often state that such a lesson could not be used in a mainstream class because the native speakers would not be engaged, And of course, they are right. The point of this lesson is not to model an activity that mainstream teachers can use in their classes, but to compress many best practices into one demonstration that enables the participants to comprehend and be involved, even though they are unfamiliar with the language of instruction. And although the lesson is geared toward pre-production students, many of the techniques are useful with ESOL students at any level when they fail to comprehend.